see in the movie, it's actually the other way around. You may walk away from Zootopia thinking that the biggest threat to the city is possibly sheep masterminds, predators going savage, or even out-of-control parking violations. Seriously? 200 tickets before noon? Get with the program, people. But the real threat is not inside its walls, but a short 211 miles outside of its borders, in a place that is possibly even more menacing than it sounds: Bunny Burrow. And why is Bunny Burrow a threat? Their population is out of control. Judy's parents reveal early on that they have 276 kids. 276! And while 276 may not seem out of control, let's do some math. If each of Judy's siblings followed their parents' lead and had a family of 276 of their own, that would quickly add up to 76,176 grandchildren for Mr. and Mrs. Hops. Now, you might say 76,176 bunnies, while maybe a nightmare trying to plan a family reunion, is not an out-of-control population. But then just one more generation later, if those 76,176 bunnies have their own families of 276, and you add in the existing generations that are still alive, you end up north of 21.1 million bunnies. I think you can see the pattern here, and just 2 more generations later, and the bunnies are in the trillions. In fact, at that point, even if you wanted to kill off the 3 oldest generations, still trillions. Not even a dent made, and that's just Judy's family. That is a threat to Zootopia, not just because it would easily be an unstoppable and adorable bunny army, but would also create a massive food shortage. How do you even feed that many creatures? There are not enough carrots in the world. Zootopia may pride itself on its prey-predator harmony, but the fact is, if left unchecked, the bunny population would take over within a century. Honestly, if the movie went on long enough, the real moral of the story would be the importance of the predator in the food chain. The bunnies wouldn't even have to be hostile. Eventually they would just smother the entire planet. It would be the softest apocalypse ever. But we also know that everyone has lived in harmony for thousands of years. So how has this not happened yet? Because bunny overpopulation isn't the actual threat to Zootopia. But when we get a look at the population of the Bunny Burrow, it gives us a hint as to what might actually be. When we first get a look at the population counter of Bunny Burrow and we see 81 million, my reaction is, 81 million? That is so many bunnies! I mean, for a small town, that's more than twice the population of California. That would make Bunny Burrow the 16th largest country on Earth. Now you may just write this off as a joke about how bunnies multiply, and that maybe we're reading a little bit too much into it, but if that's what you think, then you must be new here. Welcome to Super Carlin Brothers. It is also possible that this number is just left over from earlier versions of the film when Bunny Burrow was going to be more like a city, but that didn't end up happening, so we're not going to count it. The fact is, despite the number growing super rapidly, 81 million is actually kind of low when you consider the math we did earlier and how big the number actually should be. According to its wiki page, Bunny Burrow was founded 130 years prior, and with that much time in families as large as Judy's, the bunnypocalypse should have happened by now. Hashtag bunnypocalypse. In fact, 81 million isn't just low, it's almost indicative of some type of annual catastrophic event. Allow me to explain. If we go back to the sign, in just 6 seconds of screen time, we see the number increase 27 bunnies. That's 4.5 bunnies per second, which turns into 270 per minute, 16,200 per hour, and 388,800 per day. At that crazy rate, you would hit the 81 million mark in 209 days, or roughly 7 months, and by the end of the year, you would be in excess of 141 million bunnies. So how on earth is the population some 130 years later a mere 81 million? The answer is simple. Winter. Winter is coming. That might just sound like a Game of Thrones joke, but it actually makes for a good comparison. Just like in the show, the movie revolves around who holds power. But the real thing that everybody should be worried about lies just outside the kingdom, or city's border. Winter. Think about it, we have a population that should be way higher than it actually is in a world without predators. What else could cause such massive population control without stopping the rapid rate at which they're able to reproduce? The difference between Zootopia and Game of Thrones, well, there are a lot of differences. They're actually not the same at all. But for this situation, is that the easy solution is just to move to Zootopia, where there are food, water, shelter, and supplies to fall back on. But this crazy reproduction rate of rabbits also explains why they have not just moved to the city to avoid the annual fallout. Ever tried raising kids in a city? I mean, I personally have not, but I can imagine that raising 276 is no picnic in a one-bedroom studio apartment. In fact, I dare say it's impossible, which also explains how, despite a 141 million rabbit turnover annually, none of them have ever gone on to be a cop. Because city life is just not for rabbits. Further evidence of the threat of winter to these animals can be seen by how they react to the idea of being iced by Mr. Big. I mean, yeah, cold water is awful, but they all act like they're going to die. Maybe because the animals of this world are acutely aware of just how dangerous exposure to the cold can be. It's important to remember that despite acting very human in the movie, the city is still divided into different sections, and they are still animals that thrive in different environments. But no matter how you manipulate the city, you can't stop the seasons from happening, so once a year, every section must have to still deal with cold weather. And in a world where cold is the great equalizer, it would make sense that animals that thrive in the cold would rise to the top. And that is exactly what we see in the form of Mr. Big. Anyway, Jay, that's how you turn 6 seconds of footage of a sign into an entire video about annual Arctic fallout and ice-cold organized crime. The real threat to Zootopia. For my question of the day, if you could live in Zootopia, which section would you choose to live in? And if you would like to see more Zootopia action from us, you can click right here to see Jay's entire video about Zootopia and racism. Or if you'd like to see the role predators can play in an environment, Jay has a